All right, good morning. Welcome to LifeBridge. We are having a little bit of a unique service today. So this isn't going to be our normal type of message. Some of you might walk out of here and go, well, that really wasn't a sermon. And I'll tell you, I know it's not really a sermon. You need to come back in a couple weeks and come back next week too. But for this week and next week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking kind of a timeout, kind of a pause from our regular scheduled program so that we can just remind ourselves of why we exist specifically as LifeBridge Church. We're not just another church. We're not just showing up to show up. We're not trying to grow just to grow. We exist for a very specific reason. If you're visiting with us today, this is the perfect time for you to be here. This is going to be like when you go to Mackinac Island and you get ready to go to the ferry and you show up right when the ferry is leaving, right? And you park your car and you grab your ticket and you get on the boat and you're like, hey, we were here right at the right time. This is the perfect time for you to be here because you're going to really, in this week and next week, you're going to know everything that we are about as a church and exactly how you can plug in and go. So today's a little bit different. Again, it's not a typical message. Wanted to just kind of hit pause, time out, and remind ourselves, everybody that attends, everybody that comes, why we exist. When we originally started the church 2.5 years ago, this is a statement we said, and we're still saying this statement. It goes like this. We are a church for people who don't go to church. Okay, this is not like Walmart moving into a small town and trying to get up all the other businesses, right? We're not a church trying to get a bunch of other people that go to church already. We exist to reach people that maybe have a church experience or maybe have had a negative church experience or really just haven't heard the message, and we're trying to reach out to them with different things in new ways. So we are a church for people that don't go to church. Another way of saying that is this: found people, find people. Found people, find people. That's actually kind of a given. If you have been found, you've found the truth, the hope, eternal life, the message of Christ. If you've understood and believed that, you once were lost, but now have been found. When you have been found, the automatic, the given, is that you now find people. Now that I've put that out there, let me make fun of it just a little bit. This is this is our big thing. We try to communicate, try to get in everybody's hands. You need to think this way, think this way. That's kind of like if Aquafina, the bottled water company, if their mission statement was, water is wet, okay? If that was their mission statement, that's kind of what this is. This is a given. This is a no-brainer. This shouldn't even need to be stated, but when you find hope and find truth and find what the message in the Gospels and in the New Testament is actually saying, the automatic is going to be you're going to find other people. That's why we exist. I want to underline that. We're not just growing to grow. We don't put on a service each week because, hey, we're bored and we like to have events. We like to organize and sacrifice. We don't do that, right? We do it for a very specific mission because we believe we are offering something that no other organization and no other person in the world can possibly offer anybody, and that is eternal life. And everything we do revolves around that. Now you might be going, why am I saying that? Well, I'm saying that for a couple reasons. The first one is really because I know how frustrating it can be, right? When I was a new believer, I was full of hope and I was full of excitement, and the Bible, when I picked up the Bible, it just started to make sense, and I didn't get all of it, but I was just full of energy, and I was a found person that was ready to find somebody that was lost. And in my particular spot, I was a parts delivery boy at a international mechanic truck. So we sold international trucks, and we also worked on international trucks. So I would get truck drivers in whose truck had broke down on the interstate. We would tow them in, and then my job, along with parts delivery, was to take these guys and haul them to the hotel. So I would take a truck driver, and the hotel was about 20 minutes away, and I saw this as an opportunity. I'm like, hey, here I am in with this guy. I've got 20 minutes. This is the opportunity that God has given me. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just started to engage talking with truck drivers about Jesus. So what's really funny, if you know any truck drivers, what do truck drivers like to do? They like to talk, right? So this was not hard to get them to open up, right? And be like, you go to church somewhere, church is for hypocrites and blah, 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 and just immediately got the conversation rolling. But I found how frustrating it can be to be so filled with hope and answers and truth and not be able to communicate it or not have people be receptive to it. And maybe you've been out there and you've experienced that same exact thing where it's just you work and you work and work and time and the opportunities that are presented, you try to take hold of them. And it just seems almost hopeless to the point where many people end up giving up. Stop building that relationship with your neighbor and stop building relationships with your family and your friends and stop inviting people to church and stop buying coffee for people and stop having people over for hamburger because it gets so frustrating. Now, let me just say that should never, ever, ever end. That's God's plan. That's Jesus' work on earth, is working through you and those individual efforts, and whether you realize it or not, you are making an effort and you are planting seeds and it's working. Never, ever stop doing that. But what I also found as being the parts delivery boy, and as I grew up and I started getting to the church and I started to actually become a pastor and stuff, I learned what was really helpful, was very powerful, is when I got together with other people who believed this same thing, that found people find people, who were filled with the same hope I was, who were filled with the same energy and mission that I was. When we came together and we really worked together, we were able to do big things. So never stop that personal stuff that's very difficult. Never stop having those conversations. But at the same time, the church is the church when we come together and we are capable of doing, through God's power, awesome things. That's why we exist as a church. The second reason I kind of bring all this up is because there's many of you out there that have been coming for a while. Maybe you've been coming for like several months, or maybe you've been coming for years, and you view LifeBridge as they. When you refer to LifeBridge, you're out there, oh, where do you go to church? Oh, yeah, I go to LifeBridge. They got great music there, or they got a great children's program, and they got a very handsome-looking preacher. Right? And when you think of LifeBridge, you think of them, right? And what you have done is you have drawn this circle, and you have gone, yeah, I mean, it's them, and whatever that is to you, it's the core leaders, it's the people with all their different T-shirts and colors and stuff like that. It's them. And I attend there, and I like it. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to stop attending LifeBridge, right? We have not drawn that circle. We don't have membership. If this is your first time hearing that, we don't have membership. We don't have any secret club. There's no blood samples or anything like that we take in order for you to be a part of the church. There's no circle that we have drawn. That's an imaginary circle that you have drawn. And I don't care if this is your very first week. We want to invite you to be a part of that inner circle. In fact, there really is no circle, right? We want to invite you to be a part of LifeBridge. We want you to stop saying, hey, them or they. And we want you to start saying, hey, we have a children's ministry. We have great music. We have a handsome preacher. We, right? That third one's important. So it's important that you know you are invited. If you're here today, if you're alive, if you can fog up a mirror, you are invited to be a part of we. Okay? Hear that. Because when we come together, and we put our efforts together, God does incredible things. I want to give you an example of that. Almost to date, about a year ago, for those of you who are here, you'll remember. For those of you who weren't, we'll catch you up. We did a thing called the Greater Than Challenge. We came in and we just read this simple verse from Philippians chapter. Oh, hold on. Before we get to that, I'm too far in advance. But when we talk about being we, let me back up here. As we talk about we, everybody coming in, what do I mean about engaging with the church and drawing a big circle around that? Here's what I mean by that. I mean, we've got some things coming up. We've got what we call harvest time coming up. And what I mean by that is is people start going to church. After the kids are back into school and people in their routines and the vacations are over, people start going to church. But they don't just start going to church. They start looking for God. People come in droves, kind of hungry, looking for God during this season that's about to kick up. And so what we want to do, if you've always talked about LifeBridge as they and it's not a we want to gear you up to be a part of and to engage in our kickoff for this harvest time. Our kickoff is going to be September 19th and 20th, okay? So let me explain this slide. September 19th, 20th, Saturday and Sunday services, we're starting a series called How to Be Rich. Let me explain the series. So everybody out there in the world, not to be too cliche, has this hole, right? This bottomless hole inside of their soul, their heart, that they are trying to fill. And they're trying to fill it with all kinds of stuff. You try to fill this with the wrong stuff. Everybody tries to fill this with the wrong stuff. We think if we have more money, if we fill the hole with more money, or maybe it's not even money. Maybe it's just the stuff that money can afford you. Maybe it's the stuff. Maybe it's the vacation in the Bahamas, or maybe it's the boat that you want to buy, or maybe it's the power, or maybe it's the sense of accomplishment. But people are always out there trying to fill this hole with something, and we're going to come and say, hey, we can tell you how to be rich. And how you can be rich is through faith in Christ. And I'll tell you something about that hole that you're trying to cram with all the wrong stuff. That hole, that is bottomless, and it doesn't matter how much you get, you will always want more. Don't spend your life chasing after that. So we're going to be talking about that this week. In your bulletin, you got one of these cards. This is an invite card. This represents a person or a family. If you want to engage in what we're doing here and what we're trying to accomplish, take this card, invite somebody to go to church. You're going to get these in the mail if you've ever given us your address on the connection card. And some of you are going to go, I don't know why you gave me this. I already go to church there. Why are you mailing it? Waste a stamp, right? It's still not for you. Take that card out of your mailbox. Walk out of your house. Take a right turn and go over to your neighbor and say, hey, I just wanted to invite you to church. That's what this is all about. If you want to engage, leverage this opportunity. I promise you, God's working on every person's heart you've ever met. We always think, oh, we're just beating our head. God is working on their heart. Who knows the timing in your life this might have? Invite them to this. Also, be praying for this date. Be praying, be lifting up. I want every day in between now and September 19th and 20th, be praying that God would open people's hearts, that they would be receptive, that they would be hearing, that He would be drawing them, that if they see us on Facebook or they talk to somebody that goes like, they see a t-shirt, whatever, that God would be drawing them here so they can hear that it's not about the stuff they're trying to fill their life with, but it's about finding eternal life and fulfillment through Jesus Christ. Second way to engage, just kind of, we're all about the practical here. This is a LifeBridge sign. It's a yard sign. We've got those out here today. We want you to stick one of these yard signs in your yard. We've got them. We not only want you to put in the yard, we want you to cover the cost for it. These are only $10, right? So as you're walking out here today, we'll give you one of these for $10. Stick this in your yard. More than just like branding or whatever, getting the name of LifeBridge out there. It's more than that. This is going to start conversations. For some of you, this may be the biggest step you take this year. You might be like going to church, but you're undercover, and you're glad our parking lot's in the back so nobody sees you at the church. And now all of a sudden, we're asking you to go and have all your neighbors look over at you, and you just be like, yep, that's right. I'm one of those people. Go back inside your house, right? This will start conversations. If nothing else, this should help you take care of your lawn better. So want to get that out there. Not only do we want you to do this, we want you to take a picture of it. So remember this part too. Put it in your yard, take a picture of it, post it to the Facebook page. We would like everybody to be inundated with this kind of LifeBridge logo all over. So to do that. And then the third thing is we together are only as strong as our volunteer base. Just think about that. The only limitation we have is our volunteer base. Okay, so this is, I want to be honest with you. I want to identify you. When I go to the school or my kid's in football, and they say, we really need somebody to run the concession stand. Do you know what I do? I look down and to the left. When we go to the school and we're like, we could use volunteers at the school, and I'll be like, I try to like grab my wife and be like, let's leave, let's get out of here. I get it. I don't want to be on anybody's schedule. I don't want to volunteer. I don't want to contribute, honestly, to the school or the football team. Now, I do at times because I do things, but that's not what we're asking. We're not asking you to volunteer at yet another nonprofit or social event. We're asking you to engage in the mission here at the church. And I just want to be real frank with you. The place that we need volunteers, we don't have a spot for everybody's passion in here, right? Be like, well, I'm just really passionate about whatever. What we need you to do is change your passion, okay? And your passion needs to become children, okay? And just be honest, I got 5 kids. I don't even like other people's children. I mean, it's hard enough to like my own children, but and my wife wanted me to clarify, I do in fact love my children. So I love my children, but everything like that doesn't really matter. We set aside things. When we get in the mission of Christ, we set aside what we like, what we're passionate about, what we think about, for what works. And I'll tell you what works. The children's ministry that we have over there, that has worked. So many times we have kids wake up their parents and say, are we going to LifeBridge today? Are we going to LifeBridge today? And the parents are like, I got a hangover, but okay, I guess. And so people have been brought through the process of relationship with Jesus because of our children's ministry. This is not just another addition to your schedule. This is everything. Here's what I want you to do today. Instead of having this imaginary circle, instead of referring to us as they, I want you to get out that connection card that we talk about every week and say, all right, I'm in. You can even write that in there. All right, I'm in. I volunteer. I'll do it. All right? And we will find you a spot. I want to make one more appeal while I'm on this note. If you are volunteering and you have done this like once a month or something, and you're on the schedule and you're, yep, I contribute once a month, consider stepping that up. Consider stepping that up and saying, you know what, Deb, Rhonda, whoever, Keith, I can do this every week. You got 3 services. It's not like I'm going to miss church or anything like that. We have every once in a while volunteers going, I just can't volunteer anymore because I'm going to miss church. We have 3 services, sucker. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. So anyway, just consider being like an every down back. I said that because it's football season. So sign up for that. If you're like, that's too cold, that's too impersonal, come up to me, come up to Libby, Deb and Rhonda over in Upstreet. Keith is going to be at the back of the Connection Center. Engage in the mission of what we're doing. Now, back to where I was headed originally. I want to show you what happens when people come together. Last year, about this time, we started a series called the Greater Than series. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4 simply says this, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, right? Don't think about yourself, think about others. Rather, in humility, value others greater than yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Everything we do here, whether you're putting a yard sign in your yard, handing out a flyer, or volunteering for children's ministry, it doesn't have anything to do with what you want or what's happening for you. You're thinking of others greater than yourself. So, we got up last year, and we talked about that. We did a campaign, and we got everybody geared up, and we said, this is what we're going to do. This is our goal, our objective, to think of the people in our community and the people of our world more important than ourselves. And I just want to tell you, so many people volunteered, so many people started contributing, so many people erased that imaginary circle and jumped into the core of what we're doing. And I wanted to show you what happened as a result of that. So we had this major shift. We went, hey, it's not about me, it's about you. We just said, you are greater than me. And here's what happened as a result. We said, what would happen if we valued others greater than ourselves? What would that look like? Again, this is just almost a year to date. We decided to start giving the first 10% to missions outside of LifeBridge. Now, you got to understand, we were just barely paying the light bill, right? So when we said, hey, we're going to take 10% of our money and we're going to give it away, that 10% was nothing. It didn't exist. It wasn't real. It wasn't tangible. It was honestly imaginary. We came to you and said, we're going to give 10% of nothing away, right? We're going to give this, and we were a little nervous about it because we knew this was a big chunk. This meant a lot. And so here's what happened after we decided to do that. This is right off the bat. We had 30 plus, these group of ladies in our church got together and put these blankets that go to kids in hospitals and stuff like that. And they considered those kids greater than themselves and sewed 30 blankets. 40 to 60 families fed at this Flat Rock community meal that we have. Their soup kitchen down there. 40 to 6 families every single week gives them a good solid meal for the week. 80 Brightmoor children. So up in Brightmoor, if you ever drive around the area, they don't have windows in their homes. A lot of them don't have running water. They aren't able to wash stuff. They didn't have backpack supplies and stuff like that. We brought them in here and had a Christmas party here, and we're able to give 80 kids this just awesome Christmas party. It was very cool. 100 plus garments made for Because We Should period project. So basically, for women in other countries that can't get jobs and can't get the things they need because they don't have the feminine products that they need, we had a group of ladies come and make all of these products for them so they can be reusable. Next one, 300 coats for Brightmoor. So just up the road again, kids coming to school in the middle of a Michigan winter with no coat, sometimes no jacket. If they had something, it was a jacket. We got together and rounded up 300 coats so every kid in that school could have a coat. 350 backpacks for Brightmoor. So these kids are showing up with nothing, like literally nothing. If they have something, maybe it's a pencil or maybe it's a pad. They just didn't have the tools they needed. We rounded up the supplies for them to be able to have that. I got to tell you, it's just 300 backpacks, but that was like over $14,000 worth of supplies we just kind of were able to hand. It was phenomenal. Next thing, $450. So the Daughter Project in Toledo is just this organization that creates basically a safe house for women that have been rescued from sex trafficking. $1,000 last year for the Halloween candy crawl. We did a one-for-one campaign. We gave $1,000 for the Penrick Center here in Taylor for the blind children. $1,200 boarding school sponsorship for New Hope Initiative in Kenya. We were able to basically take 2 girls and supply them with everything they need for the year. We gave a water buffalo away. That was fun. This is all 2014. So we bought a water buffalo. This is like buying a John Deere tractor, right, for people in India. So we were able to buy them a water buffalo. $3,400. Fish and Loaves is a local organization in Taylor, reaches out to a lot of people. We were able to give them $3,400 this year, which included Christmas toys and supplies. $40,000 allocated to missions in all of 2014. So think about that for a second. We came and said 10%, and this 10% is nothing. $40,000 just appeared out of nowhere because we came together, because we, through God's power, came together and did something together. Now that was just 2014. In 2015, we thought 2014 was amazing. 2015 was even better. We were able to continue all of those missions. So everything we did there, and in addition to that, in 2015, we did a community marriage thing. We married 7 couples. Like, how many churches can say that? Yeah, we just married 7 couples, right? That was phenomenal. So, and then they had 200 plus visitors. Many of them are still coming to the church here. 1,000 people attended church at the park, and we had 32 baptisms at church at the park. That was amazing. Yeah. We continued and upped the ante and continued to give Fish and Loaves more, so we give them $400. Next one, 885 monthly contributions to oversee missions that we just consistently are able to do on a regular basis. 1,000 so the earthquake relief. This is just so fantastic, right? We used to, like, there'd be something pop up in the news locally or globally, and we just go, oh man, yeah, well, maybe we'll do a special offering. Because of the church coming together as we were just able to go, we'll just just write them a check. So we were able to do that for earthquake relief in India. Over 1,600 given in 2015 to New Hope Coffee. So just if you don't know, the coffee we have it out there, we were serving Folgers, and we were just like, hey, there's people who are struggling. There's missions in Guatemala and Honduras, and if we buy coffee from them, yeah, it's a lot more expensive. One, it's better, but it's also supporting and helping missions over there. 3,100 given in 2015 to Central India Christian Mission. Just think about that. There are 1 billion people in India, and only about 400,000 of them believe in Jesus. 1 billion people, 400,000, ripe for harvest. We're able to do that. 3,500 New Hope Initiative in Kenya, one of the biggest slums, or I think the biggest slum in the world is in Kenya. This money is like $1 million over there. That's fantastic. 3,600 given to 3 single moms. So on Mother's Day, we just grabbed 3 single moms. We didn't tell them what was going on, brought them up the stage for each of our 3 services. We gave them $1,200. That was a moment for each of those single moms. That was fantastic. $5,600, Kids Against Hunger. So we packaged meals. Many of you were here for it. We just rounded up in this room, 260 volunteers. We put together 20,000 meals and paid for the meals, and were able to send them across the border. And 2015, out of nothing, had 52,000 allocated to missions. Now, here's where I want to go with this. And so, how has this irrational generosity impacted LifeBridge, right? Because we're giving and we're giving and giving, how has that hurt the church? Because you can't give things away and have it not hurt the mission here at LifeBridge to reach people who don't go to church. Up to this point, we have 3,000 followers on Facebook, which is huge because we're able to actually get Bible lessons in people's hands, and our Facebook's been growing like crazy. 30% increase in attendance. We had to add a Saturday service, right? We just were like, hey, it's a couple weeks till Easter. We're going to have to add so we just put one together and we added a Saturday service. Our offering, having nothing, having talked about money before even, doubled in size. Doubled in size. Last year, just immediately, our offering went, whew. If you see that little chart there, it gives you goosebumps, because we're going like this, and then we just said, hey, and all of a sudden, when we came together to engage in the mission, offerings doubled. And just in 2015, 65 plus people have made their commitment to faith in Jesus Christ through baptism, okay? So, yeah. And most importantly, somebody in this church got the greater than tattoo on their wrist. This is Steve Wilkes. So when he shakes somebody's hand, he's saying, you are greater than me. I wanted to show you this slide because I want you to know the stuff we just talked about, that's just all the big stuff that we can look at the numbers and celebrate. But the personal commitment and change that's happened in your life. We have a guy that when he gives me communion every week, he walks up and offers me communion and he says, you are greater than me. And I hate that. I hate it. I'm like, stop saying that. Right? And so we get in a fight. You're greater than me. And so there's a personal decision. Now, all of that sounds fantastic, but we keep thinking, what's next? We keep thinking, what's next? That was just us kind of getting started. Like, actually, we look at 10% now, and we look at the things that happen, and we're going, it's kind of small. That's kind of weak. Like, we've started taking the slide down because we're like, that's not even like a big deal now, and just, we can't outgive God. I wanted to wrap up with a passage from Philippians chapter 1. It goes like this, chapter 1, verse 3. I thank my God every time I remember you. Paul is talking to a church in Philippi. He's talking to a whole church. He says, in all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with you because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. He's saying, I'm so excited about what's happening in Philippi because we are partners together. You're doing it, I'm doing it, we together are doing it. I love our partnership. I pray with joy. Verse 6, he says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out onto completion until the day of Christ Jesus. We together God working in us are just getting started. And I got to tell you, we're very excited as we enter into harvest season, at harvest time. We are so excited. We've got actually some big things on the horizon, and I want to articulate everything that is, but we don't really know what it looks like yet, so stay tuned. But we are so excited, but we just think that God's going to take everything that happened this last year, and he's going to make it look like peanuts. And here's what you don't want to do. A year from now, you don't want to go, man, I wish I would have gotten on that boat. Just right here and right now, we ask you, it's not LifeBridge, it's not them, it's us. Engage in what we're doing.